Hello and welcome to another Big Finish video. Today, now that we've wrapped up the first wave of Ninth Doctor adventures, I thought it would be best to rank all the stories from worst to best. If you want a more in-depth look at my thoughts on each of these stories, I've left a link in the description to all 4 reviews of each box set, along with some links to other videos I've created, so you can get a mix of a lot of the content released on this channel. I've really enjoyed reviewing these releases, and it's so great to have more Eccleston content, and I look forward to what comes next from Big Finish. Before we start the video, I'd just like to ask, if you haven't already, I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you can stay up to date with all the content that's released, like and comment, and you can find and follow me on Twitter at the links here. At the bottom spot, number 10, The Hunting Season. Definitely the weakest out of this series. I feel like it sort of covered a lot of ground better explored in other stories, and outside of Eccleston himself, there's not really much to revisit for this story. A lot of the secondary cast are pretty unlikable and not in an enjoyable way. Number 9, Monsters in Metropolis. This story does share the previous one's problem of covering previously established ground. However, I think the execution, setting and concept is just a lot more enjoyable here. Of the 2 Cyberman stories in this range, this is definitely my least favourite of the 2. I'd still recommend it. The Hunting Season is the only one I'd call bad, I suppose. This one is just okay. I think you'd get more out of it if you hadn't heard this type of story before. If it's your first exposure to this concept, then I think you'll appreciate it a lot more than I did. Number 8, Girl Deconstructed. An interesting Rusty Davies inspired take on a ghost story. Rather than going the horror route, it's more of a dramatical presentation of ghosts, which I think is pretty interesting. Number 7, Ravagers, the whole box set. I feel like I've enjoyed it a lot more on re-listens, as initially there was quite a lot going on and it was hard for me to process, but it is a pretty enjoyable story. It's very similar to the Flux story arc in the TV series, right down to the villains being called the Ravagers. I just think it was better executed here, and it was a good start to this range. Number 6, The Fourth Generation. Despite my misgivings about how this story was marketed, I still say it's an enjoyable idea with the Cybermen, which has a bit of interesting social commentary about contrasting generations. Number 5, The Curse of Lady Macbeth. An interesting exploration into a part of history which, outside of the adaptation from Shakespeare, doesn't really get that much focus. Lady Macbeth is a very interesting character and works as a good one-off companion. Number 4, Fright Motif. A really atmospheric story, and Damien Lynch as Artie Bircher really steals the show. Number 3, Way of the Berryman. This story definitely suffered as a result of the Cybermen's appearance being spoiled, because it is written in such a way that their appearance would be shocking if you didn't know they were going to be in it. But putting it aside, it is really enjoyable, and it almost acts as a standalone story for the most part, somewhat separate to the second part until right at the very end. Number 2, Fond Farewell. When it comes to Doctor Who discussing elements of social commentary or themes, like, for example, grief, I always appreciate it when they try and take advantage of the fact that it's a sci-fi show to be a bit more experimental when exploring these themes, rather than just shifting it to a domestic setting in order to make it more relatable. And at number 1, Planet of the End. I can see why a lot of people are calling this story the Ninth Doctor's Heaven Sent. In terms of concept, and the quality of the story itself. It's not only the best of this range of audio dramas, I also think it stands alongside some of the best Ninth Doctor stories from the TV series, which is very high praise when you look at the really high quality stuff in his season. So those are my thoughts on the ranking for Series 1 of the Ninth Doctor Adventures on Big Finish. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.